All right, welcome to the Local Roots Podcast, the show where we sit down with Main Street business owners in our communities to get to know the ones taking all the risks to provide you with the products and services you rely on each day. I'm your host, Nick Childs, coming to you from Coach's Cigar Lounge here in Tomball, Texas. The cigar that'll be escorting us in today's conversation is the Barrier 1492. It opens with baking spice and cedar, eases into a touch of honey and sweetness, and finishes with a slow roll of black pepper on the retrohale. So, sit back and relax, because like any handcrafted cigar, these stories unfold with time. My guest today is the owner of one of Tomball's most beloved bakeries, Manna Bread from Heaven. I personally am a big fan of this bakery. I use it as a personal office away from the office. I frequent them on a weekly basis. I've used it for daddy-daughter brunches, dates with Amber. So without further ado, Christin, welcome to the Local Roots Podcast.
It's nice to be here.
We also have your husband, Chad, joining us today. Chad, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Great to have you. So Christin, take us back to where it all started. What were the events that led up to opening up this magnificent Manna Bread from Heaven?
Sure. Yeah, so it actually just started with my love for bread and baking. As a kid, my mom wasn't super into cooking and baking and all those things, but I definitely was. So I remember the first thing that I made was macaroni and cheese. I was probably maybe 8-10 years old, and my parents were out of town, and I pulled out that macaroni and cheese box, and I'm reading the instructions. And you know that you're kind of a cooking geek when you're that age, and you decide that after watching a couple cooking shows, instead of just dumping in the packets of powder and milk and butter and stirring it all together like most people do, I decided to whisk, like get the whisk out of the drawer and whisk the powder and melt the butter in the microwave and do like a very smooth sauce with the sauce, and then pouring it over the cooked macaroni and the pasta and everything. And just enjoying that. And I can remember back to that time just thinking, man, I was just a little bit of a foodie even back at age 8. And then everything I could get my hands on with the knowledge that I had and the maturity I had, I just wanted to bake. I started getting into pies when I was a teenager, wanted to make all the cookies and all the things that I could come up with in my mom's kitchen with the limitations that I had. As soon as I got to college, I just really took off wanting to make it for other people, made a lot of mistakes. But I couldn't stop. I just loved it. And I just thought, partly I wanted to eat the things I made, but I love to share and see all the joy that other people were having through my craft and the things that I put together. And then kind of moving it more into married life and kids, being a stay-at-home mom, that was what I would go to when times were stressful or I had a little extra time. It was my hobby. It was my therapy and all those. And we didn't have the internet at that time, but we did have a library. And so I would buy cookbooks and all these things and bring them home and read all the instructions and tips and techniques that the local cooks had, or the authors of the cookbooks. Yeah. And then we also had a local cooking class called the Little Theater at Macy's, which was a grocery store. And so they had free classes, so I'd go to those and learn whatever I could from that, but really just mostly self-taught. So the more I learned about tips and techniques and everything, I remember my mom said that the recipe turns out much better if you measure precisely. Like if everything, like level that cup and make sure it's just exact. And I'll never forget the day that I was reading a recipe and the lady said, you have to weigh your eggs. It doesn't matter that they're both medium eggs, you have to weigh them and make sure that it's precisely the right amount. And I thought, oh my goodness, every egg's gonna weigh different. What am I gonna do with this? And at that point, something flipped and switched in me to like, what if I don't? So I started doing the what if I don't kind of baking. Nice. So I would do one thing precisely, like something I'd done 100 times and it turned out great. I'd do it the right way, but I'd do a second batch and try to break it on purpose. Because I'm like, I was getting overwhelmed with all these rules, so I would break it on purpose. I would do one brownie batch right, and then I'd do one brownie batch overmixed. And see, like, did that make a difference? Yes or no? It did make a big difference. It turned really chalky. But when I did that with the bread and I overmixed a yeast bread, I'd go take a shower while the mixer's just running and come back. And, it's been doing that for half an hour. And I baked them both. It didn't make a difference. So I'm like, okay, that's not a thing. Wow. And I found that there are a lot of wives' tales and things out there that really were not a big deal and made zero difference, or such a minor difference it wasn't worth the great inconvenience of doing it. And so learning all the rules of the
Interesting.
science helped me to be able to play within the science and start developing my own recipes and have a lot more fun with it, knowing what mattered and throwing out what really didn't matter. So that was really fun. Moving forward, it turned into a bigger hobby and sending it out to church things with my kids to school. I get great feedback. So my kids would come back and say, Mom, man, when I brought that French bread, I'm not kidding. Everybody was climbing over each other for the last piece. And then I'll never forget when Joseph came home, actually my son, and he said, Mom, my teacher actually stopped me in the hallway and he said, Joseph, do you guys sell this stuff? And he said, no, she just sends it with me to school sometimes. And he said, go home and tell your mom that stuff is gold. Like this kind of thing, you don't just get it all the time. She could really do something with that.
Wow.
And so he came home with this message, and I realized that maybe there's something to the handmade, homemade breads that people don't get a lot of anymore. Everyone's on the go.
Yeah.
And
What year
it's
is
kind of a
this
dying
around?
art. This was probably 2015, 16.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Yep. And I realized that maybe I could actually do something more with this than just kind of send it off to school and bring it to church functions and take it over to the neighbors. And at that time, we were having a financial crisis as well. So my husband had some pretty extended periods of unemployment, and we were in the middle of one of those. So it was a difficult time financially. And when Joseph came home and told me that, I thought, maybe I could actually sell this somehow.
Yeah.
I looked it up and found out that there's something called the cottage law in Texas where women can actually, or men, people can just bake their own things from home as long as they follow a few certain rules. So I started setting something up. And in my mind, I thought if I set it up like a lemonade stand, that was actually the first time. So we just had a little plastic table, and I sent my son out with some cash and quarters and some bread and texted all my friends and said, come and buy bread here. It's in the driveway. Joseph's taking care of it out there while I'm inside baking. And they came, but as I watched them coming and going, I thought, if it was me, I'd probably do that a couple times, but I wouldn't do that a lot of times. And if I want to start up something steady and something that makes everybody really comfortable where they want to come again,
Yeah.
something where they could show up in their bunny slippers,
Right.
As they're picking up their kids from school. And if it was me, I think most of us have kind of an inner introvert where you're like, I really don't feel like having a chat with somebody. I'm on the go, but I still want the bread or cinnamon rolls.
Yeah,
So
give
I
me the
put
goods.
Yes. So I set it up on my front porch. I brought in a pretty rug. I even got a little speaker to play some nice music. Put some kind of poster type things on the walls and decorate it like a little boutique. And then I got a bread rack. And that rack held a lot of bread, a little table by it, and then another table where they could put their money in an envelope in a locked safe and go. And so I regulated it so it was always $5. It was always every Tuesday from 4 to 8. If you don't have cash, you can buy a punch card ahead of time and open the little cabinet, punch away on your labeled punch card, just to make it as easy as possible and as fun as possible. And then if they needed something, they could ring the doorbell, and I would come and make change for them or have conversation or answer questions or whatever. But I thought, that's something that I would show up for, so we'll see if the other people are like me. Well, 18 months later, I had over 500 people on my text list. It was really fun, just texting out. It's Cinnamon Roll Day. I'll never forget on Cinnamon Roll Day one time, it was actually raining. And it was 4 o'clock, and when I opened the door to start putting out the cinnamon rolls, there was actually a line around my house in the rain, and everybody cheered, like, yay!
Oh my God.
Cinnamon rolls, and I took a picture of that moment, like, what are you guys all doing here in the rain? But it was so fun, it was so rewarding to know that they all were so excited, for Tuesdays to come. And I think the fact that it was random, it was kind of like a surprise, like, what's it going to be today?
Right.
It made it a little bit more exciting for them, and so it was beautiful. My husband at the time, again being unemployed, he was so excited about this entrepreneurial little adventure I was on. He spent a lot more time with me and going to Costco runs and things like this, but not looking for work and not using his MBA, to get the job that we needed. And so I had just a serious, should I just close this down and just give him space to focus on that job, rather than being kind of a distraction in a way.
Yeah.
And so I took it to God. I mean, God's always been there for me in times past, through some ups and downs. And so I just brought the Bible into the backyard, and I opened it up, and I was just asking God, is this the time that I just should close this down and end this operation? And he said, he didn't say anything. I just opened up the Bible and hoped he would speak to me in that. And the very first words I read were about, I'm the bread of life, I'm the manna from heaven. And that's what the name of this whole story and bakery comes from, is he's just saying, I'm the bread of life, I'm the manna from heaven. And I'm reading these bread verses that just came in front of me, and I'm like, that's some validation, but let's check again. So I turned some more pages, I was like, maybe not, so then I ultimately opened up again to the verses about the loaf of bread on Solomon's porch, like in the Old Testament. I'm like, man, I don't know how many bread verses are in the Bible, but this is 2 in a row, like right when I'm asking him about this little bakery. But more so, I felt it in my heart, just hang on to this. This is something really special that's going to take care of you and a lot of other people. And I can't deny that I felt that message in my heart. I remember looking up at the trees and just thinking, 1 loaf of bread at a time for $5? How is that going to take care of me and many people? I don't understand this.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I had that question, like, how? Why me? He's got the MBA. This isn't making tons of money.
Right.
I don't understand.
Right.
And again, I just felt like, open it up one more time. I can answer these questions.
Yeah.
So I opened up to Malachi chapter 2, and there it talked about husbands not taking care of their wives and not appreciating it, like being very, very untrustworthy. I'm like, what in the world? What is this? And so that's kind of a more personal part of the story, but it definitely has to be told. I just took it and put it away for a minute, like, I don't know what that means exactly. A couple weeks later, again, more personal, but he came to me with a confession that ultimately put him in prison for 40 years. So it was a very severe, serious thing that he'd done, and it was a process of a whole year. I ended up going to court and having to witness to some things. It was very, very difficult. So it ended up in divorce. I ended up being a single mom, and I did ultimately end up needing to take care of my 6 kids. But it was manna that lifted us through all that. It gave us hope. It gave us a financial ability to pay the bills, not without struggle, but with a lot of faith and prayer. And if that hadn't been there, it would have gone a whole different direction for me. So it did end up being the pivotal moment of just hang on to this. This is a blessing, and it will take care of you and your kids.
And so when you started Manna, were you going through that hardship? Was that in the thick of things, or was it just before the confession, or when did you officially start Manna to kind of like take that leap of faith and be like, all right, God, I'm doing this.
Right,
You've planted a seed in my heart. Where was the timing on that?
Yeah. So when it was on the front porch, it was just called Curly Chef's Porch Bakes. I have this curly hair, and I was a little chef, and I loved calling myself a chef because I didn't. I remember thinking, like, at what point do I actually call myself chef? And I actually Googled it too, and it's like, well, whenever you feel confident doing it. And I'm like, all right, I'll say that today. I'm Curly Chef. So it was a cute name. It's kind of catchy. It was actually an online, when you register and accounts and things, it was a less common Curly Chef with 2 F's at the end.
Right.
So that's part of the sign that I actually have in the hallway at Manna now, is the sign that I had on my porch, Curly Chef's Porch Bakes.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that's what it was at the time. And so I just continued Curly Chef's Porch Bakes. But with this news that came, the confession and everything, I did continue doing it, but obviously long walks, long talks, a lot of prayer, a lot of crying.
Yeah.
And I went to a therapy group a few weeks later, and there I met a lady that we had met in the lobby of a church a year before. We hardly knew each other, but there we were in this, unfortunate situation in the therapy group. But she recognized me, and we shared a few stories, but I wasn't able to share the details of obviously what was going on too much. But we went for a walk, and mostly I shared about the bakery and how excited I was, how good it's going and everything, and a little bit about life. And then a few days later, after that walk, she texted me and she said, hey, Christin, my husband and I have been wanting to invest. We have a large amount of money. This was close to $100,000 to invest in something. And we've been trying left and right to invest, but the doors keep closing. And then today at a stoplight, God just said, it's meant for you at a bakery.
Wow.
So I don't know if you're looking to start a store, brick and mortar, but we would love to invest in that. And when we made the phone calls, things came together for them to be my investors. I wasn't even looking for one. And so that was the beginning of that was no joke. God's going to take care of this. And now I have an investor. It's
oh my gosh.
Time to get
you
moving.
weren't even looking.
No, wasn't even looking.
That's amazing.
So, and I was kind of just fell to my knees like, this is happening. So I started making phone calls of man, where do you start? To start a real business.
Yeah, right.
So I just started by driving around town looking for for lease signs, and most of them wanted franchise chains,
Yep.
national
Big box branding.
things.
Yep.
Yep. And when I'd call them, they're like, no, we're not looking for someone like you. But there was one company that said, well, listen. And I said, I like this location that was near my neighborhood. And they said, we think that with your model, as I presented it to their board, I brought them some bread that they could eat while I was doing my spiel and my speech and business plan. And they said, and by the way, what's a business plan? What's a triple N lease? What's an LLC?
Right.
I'm just I'm glad the internet was out at that time, because I'm just spending all this time. Like, I have so many questions and I know so little about running a business.
Sure.
But by then I knew enough how to present my business plan. And they said, we think that this location's a little bit big for your starting out business, although it's where your clientele is. But why don't you come and look at this location on North Point down there in Tomball? It's a little bit of a drive. I was living in Oak Ridge North.
Mm-hmm.
So that's up near the Woodlands, but they said it's a bit of a drive, but we think you'll love it. It's on the corner. It's got some windows. It's going to be, it's one of the first businesses in there, so you're going to see a lot of other businesses coming in to support.
Right.
And so we looked at it, and I loved it. I fell in love with the location. I loved all the light. It was about the right size. It was more manageable for the lease and the property and everything. And so they went ahead and signed a contract and let me have a shot. They liked my model and the uniqueness of the bread and everything. So at that point, that was like, what am I going to name this place? It's not Curly Chef's Bakes anymore.
Right.
It's now going to be, I think, Manna from Heaven. Just, it talks about bread, and it held to the description moment that I had with God. So named it Manna Bread from Heaven. And then the phone just started ringing off the hook again. Like, I was like, I don't know how to build. This was an empty shell of a business. There's no plumbing, no AC, no.
I was going to ask you, how much build out was there? You have a kitchen, is a fully functioning kitchen with a vent hood and all that? Or
right, yeah, we need all that.
You built all that out?
To be a commercial kitchen, yep.
Wow.
The only thing it didn't have was a gas line. It was all electric. But yeah, everything. It needed restrooms. It needed, it was just like a shed. And I didn't know, how do you turn a shed into a bakery? Where do you put the counters, the customers? And at that time, an architect came up to me, a friend in our church. And he said, is there a need that you have for architect work? Because I'm not fully certified, but I know my stuff, and I'll do it for free. We'll just meet every Tuesday. And we met in the church there, and we walked it out, kind of like literally standing, moving tables around, like, how much space do you think you'll need for this? What kind of corner do you need for the dough versus the register? Where are the customers going to walk in, and what would make them comfortable? How far would the tables need to be from the register? All those questions. He said, I'm here just to kind of like massage out what's in your brain and put it on paper on a graph so that you can take it to an actual architect, and she can just approve it and stamp it and seal it. And then it will be just like pennies on the dollar for you. So amazing.
What a blessing.
Yes, for sure. So that was one of many. Like, my friends called me and said, do you need somebody to work for you? I haven't worked for anybody for 20 years, but I feel like this summer I'm meant to be there helping you out and just supporting you. And I needed emotional support at the time as well, going through all that we were going through. So had two friends and their daughters come over, had some other people that knew somebody. I didn't even have to advertise or get out there to hire staff. All of a sudden I had staff. A contractor was there on the property next door working on something, and he's like, let me do it for you. And he did it probably for half the price of what a contractor really should have done it for. He just said, I feel like you're going to influence a lot of other things and get me other contractors. Let's just do this. And you spread the word from where you're at, because I wanted to get into this area. So we did a little deal, and it was, now that I know what I know, it was a really great arrangement. And he actually upscaled a lot of things that I didn't even ask him to, because he wanted to see it shine and do really well for me. So it was just amazing. And then as well, just the equipment, the beams, like I could go on and on. These people just calling me. There was even another person that he was at a little business meeting in a living room where I was just learning about business again through our church. And he said, I feel like this money, I have this nest egg of money I thought was for my retirement, but I feel like it's meant for you to be able to start your business. And I did need a little boost still, financial boost at the time. And he said, just here's a check. And he wrote me out a check for $10,000 and said, if there's any point that you can return it back, that's fine, but no strings attached, no contracts, nothing. Just here you go. So I can honestly say this wasn't something that I built. It literally was God, that He put all these people in place, finances and equipment, all these things in place, so that one day I could turn around the open sign and say, come on in, we've got something for you, and I'm owning a business. And it wasn't, I didn't initiate any of it. Sometimes people are like, is this your dream come true? Is this something that you planned it all out and you've saved up and you got the loans and you,
Right.
like, no, I basically was just trying to keep up with all the phone calls that were coming in and what God was putting in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
But I love it so much.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't dream it, God knew I had something in my heart that I would love more than anything else that I would have even conceived. So, and that was just the first location. And now the new location it's in is so much more beautiful and grand than I could have ever imagined. And the people I get to work with and the customers that come in, the conversations we have, so intimate and beautiful. And the peace that we're able to provide for them, they come in with a lot of special things that they wouldn't bring into a burger shop or a pizza place.
Right.
When people meet for coffee, it's for something on their heart, versus if they meet for pizza, it's something in their
Yeah.
belly.
Right.
So I'm just honored to be a part of all of it. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how Manna was birthed.
That's an
we spent
amazing
5 years
story.
in the old location and 3 years in the new location.
You beat me to it. I was going to ask you how long you've been at this location here.
3.5 years.
3.5 years. And when we had like a pre-interview sit down chat to kind of get to know each other, I had mentioned one of my favorite things about Manna is just the atmosphere. I really feel, and I think I speak for anyone who's ever been to Manna, you feel this, but you get transported. You're no longer in Tomball. You're no longer in Northwest Houston. Like, you get transported to, it feels like vacation. Like you're in maybe Costa Rica or something. It's very tropical, very, like, just the design and the backdrop
It's an
and
escape from
the music
everything.
and the
Yeah.
atmosphere. It really feels special. I don't feel like I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Tomball. And that's why I invite people out to, on a professional level, meeting my clients there. I love meeting people there. I love bringing people to that atmosphere and that feeling that you've created. You mentioned something when we first met, and you were inspired by Jerusalem. Tell me more about that. You actually had something in mind. You wanted to design that place, your shop, based on, I think it was Jerusalem. So tell me, unpack that more about. Yeah, that was by design. It was on purpose and great work. But tell everybody about kind of what your inspiration was behind that.
Yeah. And so the original Manna, I wanted to honor God in it, but it took some. It was a nice environment, I feel like. But over time, I wanted to kind of like play some music that honored God, but not in a cliche way, not like radio Christian.
Right.
Nothing that would
Yep.
There's so much Christian now that feels disingenuine,
Yep.
a little bit, I don't know.
I relate to
cringy.
that. Yes.
Didn't want to do that, but I was
cookie cutter.
Yeah. I just didn't want to feel like we're Christians. Come in, I just didn't want to I want everyone to come in, and I want it to be very genuine, natural, organic, almost, in a way that would meet everybody where they're at, would feel safe and peaceful and just calm. And so I got a new chance with the new Manna, with this building. So the first lease was 5 years. It was good, but not great. Financially, it wasn't sustainable, honestly. That was a time that I learned how to be a business owner, learned how to do operations and systems, and get my feet under me a little bit, built in confidence and how to be a leader.
You're getting those initial scars of business ownership.
Yeah. My friends that were helping me out, that was temporary. And so as I brought in actual, complete strangers to be my staff, I learned that it's not perfect to be just a buddy friend with your employees. There's a place for leadership that's separate. Those kinds of things. So with the new building, I knew, so the old place wasn't making financial sense. And the question was, do we continue on here and re-sign and renegotiate the lease here, which wasn't making sense, or end and just be done, or start again somewhere else, maybe with a new model, new location, something else, maybe bigger, maybe a new menu. And so as I was thinking about all this, I had an employee, and she said, go check out on Old Town Tomball, just off on Commerce Street there. There's this building, looks like a shed. She's like, prepare for nothing exciting. But the guy that owns that, his name is Ernie. He's passed away now, but He owns a few businesses, and he's got a really good deal on that place. So when I went over and I looked at it, she was right. It was like just a shed with a little yellow door on the front. 2 stories. It had a cement area on the side with a potential patio, but I actually, in the hallway, you can see a before and after. It was not attractive, and a lot of people had passed it up, and so he had it on a really good sale. When I called him, the lease was actually cheaper for 3 times as much space as it was where I had been. So financially, it did make sense as far as space, and a lot more room to do a lot more business for a good price.
Right.
So anyway, the first time I just passed by like no. And then I went a second time, and I walked along the side of the building, and I looked inside, and I saw how much light was pouring in those windows.
Yes.
And I thought, it's new, equipped, it was built with a commercial kitchen in there and everything in the bathrooms. But that light, that's where I kind of started seeing, what if it was plants? What if it was, with all this wood that I had in the old place, we'll bring it inside, all these heavy beams and everything, and make it feel just like the outdoors inside. But I do also want it to kind of speak calmly and naturally of Jesus.
Right.
And so during that time, I actually took a trip to Jerusalem with my church, my new church, in this Christian new life that I was stepping into. Jerusalem did look and feel the way that I had already seen it and kind of envisioned it in Manna. So for me, it's Jerusalem. For me, it's walking with Jesus in a time where there is no technology, a time like a primitive time where things are slower and more calm and relaxed. And that's what I want to invite everybody into, is like maybe just slowing down and not having all the anxiety and everything that comes with the rush of this country and the society and the commerce and everything, and our businesses and all the things that we feel like we have to do and maintain. But rather just like maybe just get in a time machine for a little bit and step into a time gone by where we have all the time in the world and we can sit and connect with others and have some healing happen, some peace.
Wow.
So that's why I went Jerusalem with it. For me, that brings in calm, peace, and antiquity. But for others like you,
that's fascinating that you say that, because I'm not thinking Jerusalem when I walk in.
Yeah.
I don't know that story when I'm a customer buying coffee, but I get the same net feeling. The net result is the same.
Yep.
Right?
That's the important part, too.
You enjoy going back. You feel very comfortable there.
Yeah.
It's a big place, and it's often busy, but you don't feel crowded. You don't feel claustrophobic. Like it's a home away from home, truly. And so I find that fascinating that was your intent to create that feeling, and that's what we feel.
Yeah. Some say South America when they come in.
Right.
Some will say Peru.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. I actually intentionally keep it really neutral, with no flags or labels or anything. We don't even advertise in there. There's no buy one get one frees or pop machines in there, soda and all that. I say pop because I'm from Utah originally. What's pop? But yeah, we try to keep it very muted so that it can be anywhere for you. So no matter where you've traveled or if you haven't traveled at all, just somewhere, calming and a time gone by. That's all we need. And it's there for you. The food we're not all about the food. We're not all about we want to make money and be millionaires. We may franchise or something, but it's more of a, can this bless other people in other places the way that it does here?
Yeah.
It's all about just come in and rest and let this be your place. Yep.
So rewinding just for a little bit, when you were younger, and you were, making the macaroni and cheese and just being creative, it sounds like you kind of had a magnetic pull toward this direction, whether you didn't know if you were going to do this one day as a kid, but did you, like going through life as a young girl and into, being a young woman, did you feel like a true north? Almost like, and I'm not sure if you grew up in church or not, but did you feel a strong connection all the time? Like this was kind of like where you were headed anyway, as like a magnetic north?
Did you see this coming?
Yeah, like that was your niche. It was your interest. That was your hobby, to start with.
Yeah.
And it obviously has evolved into this beautiful gift of giving back.
Yeah.
But was that just something you were doing for fun, or was there something more to that, growing up?
No, actually, I know it sounds kind of funny, but I did not imagine being a business owner. I
Yeah.
thought, to tell the complete truth, the frank truth, I thought business owners were all about money, kind of all about themselves, like business with dollar signs through it, you
Right.
know, like cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yep.
I did not see myself being a business owner for that reason. I think I was just thinking corporate America and stocks and all that, you know.
Yep.
And money was never a driver for me, really, although it was there was a lot of hardship. So security, I definitely wanted security, but didn't feel a real sense for money. And I just thought business owning was probably for people that desired just the money. So no, I didn't. I thought, if anything, because I did love baking, I was also kind of shy, actually. Introvert, shy.
Yep.
Didn't love the idea of being around a lot of people. Now it's different. That's part of, again, like my heart changing and being more, like, I feel more peaceful and more secure in myself, and it helps me to get out and just love people without, there's not a question about me anymore. It's more like, how can I love on others? So
Right.
that helps. But yeah, I just thought, if anything, maybe a little cupcake shop or something really tiny, maybe a cake decorating. But really, I thought, no, not out there in public, probably at home.
Yeah.
I just couldn't imagine myself getting thrown so far out there into public, really.
Right.
But it was over time that, as I changed, I think it kind of developed into that I could do something like that. My confidence was built.
Yeah.
But also, I had no idea what a joy it is to run a business and to have people that I actually have leadership in me that I never knew was there, and tapped into that. And the thing that that made me want to tap into that is, like, if I lead people, we can do more good. You know,
Right.
I can see more smiles. That can be, like, it doesn't have to be just one-on-one. Together as a team, we can make good bread be the vehicle for good conversations, good experiences. We can actually change people's lives this way. You know,
Yeah.
someone comes in sad and leaves happy, like that brings so much purpose to my life.
Yeah.
You know? So every day I feel like, whether I show up or not, it's still happening, and I love that, because my staff, they're great. They're like family to each other. They're giving high fives. They're getting through the hard times and the good times together. They'll even sometimes pull each other aside and pray for each other, and all. I love it, and I love hearing the stories of what happens even when I'm not there.
Yeah.
And that was what I hoped for. I hope
Love
that
it.
I don't have to be there all the time for the good to continue every day. So.
Well, I think, you know, something I take away from your story, and first of all, thank you so much for sharing that story and being transparent. But this is truly a phoenix rising from the ashes type of story. And so I think that it's a good reminder for people that are listening. Like, if you are going through a hard season of your life, there is a grand plan. There is a grand design. We're just too close to the situation where we really can't see, you know, over the horizon. Life is full of, there's this yin and yang balance of, you know, dark and light. And, you know, what is music without silence? It's the silence between the notes that make music beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what the hardships are in our lives in the growth. There's hardships and there's growth. And, you know, Manna is here today providing a gift to the community and bringing people together, because the catalyst of that was the hardships that you went through, right?
And even the name Manna, I don't know if you're aware of the story in the Bible, but
Please share.
there's so much to that name.
I don't.
Yeah. So Moses, you've heard of Moses, maybe, you know, the baby in the basket. And then when he got older, he went back to free his people. And they were so happy to be free from slavery and everything. They step out into the desert. And then I don't know if they knew, I can't remember if they knew that it was going to be 40 years, but it was going to be 40 years. And they're out in the middle of the desert. And so they didn't have McDonald's and, you know, corner markets and things like that out there in the middle of the desert.
Right.
God brought them bread every day. And the first time it happened, it was all over the ground, all these little pieces of bread from heaven, just there for them to gather. And the word manna is actually, it means, what is this? And I don't remember if it's Hebrew or Greek, but they're gathering around going, what is this? What is this? Like, what the heck? You know, kind of basically. That's why they're like, manna, manna, manna. They're gathering it. But it was a type of, the situation was that the bread was good for one day, but not for two. So they could only gather for today.
Oh, wow.
And if they kept more than one day's gathering, it would go bad. And so they had to gather the next day for that day, and the next day for that day. So God provided daily just what they needed for that day. And that was help them to trust him daily, 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 one day at a time. And that's kind of how my story was as well. And it wasn't just about the scripture verse that day, but there were so many times, even building up and into it, like, where am I going to get an architect? And then an architect comes along.
Yep.
Where am I going to get employees? And then
Yep.
the phone rings up. We feel like we need to work for you. Where am I going to get the finances? Well, get a text, Literally, it was just enough for the day. In fact, the investment that I got was only enough to build out and a little bit of capital, but it was not. I couldn't advise very well. Well, now I can. I have the knowledge, but
Sure.
I would not suggest that somebody do it the way that I did it, because I didn't have enough capital for 2 or 3 years of payroll.
Wow.
It was 1 week, 1 month at a time.
Yep.
And there were numerous times that I was ready to close down, and we don't have enough time for these stories, but if anybody wants to come in and hear them, I love sharing them. It was like, we got to close tomorrow, and then something would come at that time. And I'll share one with you, and that is during COVID, as all these businesses are shutting down, I'm grateful that we were able to stay open, being more of a bakery model. It's almost like a grocery store, so it was considered what's the phrase, like a mandatory, like life-sustaining business or something like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Non-optional.
Yeah.
Anyway, we qualified for that, but
a crucial service.
Yes. Most people are going straight to Walmart, straight home. They don't want to wander off the path and pick up whatever COVID they might, and so they weren't coming into Manna. And it looked like we were going to have to close. And it was literally, I was trying to figure out, is this going to be an email or phone call to my employees to just let them know we've got to close, because I wasn't able to make payroll. And that afternoon, the phone rang, and it was the business generators. And they said, hey, our workers are so busy, but we don't want them going out to McDonald's and kind of collecting whatever COVID that they might, and then coming back to the company. We'd rather them kind of stay close. So is there any way that every day you could bring us 60 sack lunches for our employees long term until this COVID thing's over? And when I did the math and gave them the bid, it was literally just barely enough for my payroll and what I needed at the time.
Oh my God.
Yep. And so my employees came in, and we did these sack lunches for Generac every day, and that was their payroll. And we were able to stay open just because of that one phone call. So that's one of many that just God was good, and it was this manna that was for me one day at a time. Sometimes it was literally that. So, yeah.
So transitioning over into more of the business aspect, the day-to-day operations, and getting into the second phase of the interview, what does your average day look like as a business owner now? Are you ever in the kitchen baking at all and doing the thing that you love, or are you just completely you're limited on bandwidth and you just got to run the business? And what's that look like now?
I'll probably be right now, actually. I don't have to be, and I usually am not in the kitchen doing all the baking and everything. I miss it sometimes, but I love being a business owner and a boss more than that. And I didn't know that was in my heart, so I'm so glad that was brought out and encouraged and kind of revealed to me, I guess, over time. But yeah, my typical business day is I'll show up in the morning and gather up the troops. I've got a little bell in the back kitchen. I ring it once so that they know they got 5 minutes, and then I'll ring it twice, and we gather in the office. I ask how they're all doing, and if anybody has a need for prayer or whatever, there's going to be a prayer at the end, and we talk about the plan for the day, maybe a little bit of training, encouragement, and then in the end we just pray, and it's a wrap, and they all go out for the day and do their things. So yeah, and then after our morning gather at meeting, I mostly just walk around and make sure that I answer any questions, make sure everything looks good. I tell my employees when I hire them that my job is to make sure you love your job. And if you love your job, then they're going to feel that, and they're going to love coming in.
Right.
So that's my primary job.
I am huge on customer service. I've been in sales for over 15 years, and customer service, good eye contact, a good handshake, a smile, the small things go a long way.
Yes.
And it is so hard. I'm a business broker. I represent business owners every single day. And managing employees, hiring the right talent, good personalities, things like that kind of carry on the message of your business, and they're a good culture fit for your business is hard to find.
Yeah.
And I have yet to walk into your bakery and not have a positive experience. Every single person that I've interacted with that's customer facing has been absolutely amazing. They're positive, they're energetic, they're helpful, they're thoughtful, empathetic, all the things, right? How in the world do you find right talent to help you run your business. That's such a hard thing to do. And I know any other business owner that's listening to this is nodding their head. How in the world have you accomplished that? Because that is such an amazing culture fit, and it fits exactly with what you're up to as far as, this environment that you're creating for the community.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think,
how do you do that?
if they love their jobs, there are people that apply for a job that is 100% just for the money and they don't really care about anything else. And those are great. That's good. They could be hard workers and all that. But there's kind of the spectrum between, is it money or is it really where I work and why I'm working there? And do I love the environment, like the heart side of things, not just the wallet? And so some are heavy on, like there's some employees that I've got in there, they really don't care that much about their paycheck. They just love where they're spending their time and what they're doing. And I lean into that quite a bit during the interviews. Like, why do you want a job? Where are you seeing yourself here? And what are some of your past experiences with other bosses and employees? And I look for positivity, like I've never had a problem with, anything, anywhere.
Right.
I'm like, that's you, that's about you, because there's no perfect job. I look for attitude, because you can't train attitude. I've tried it a lot of times.
Yep.
You can't train attitude, you can train skills, but you can't just tell somebody to change their attitude and heart. That has to come from something inside of them. So I look for attitude, and then also kind of fostering that in and bringing more and more of those people, and they're going to stay. The ones that really love the job and they have a great attitude and they are having a really positive, genuine experience at Manna, they're going to want to stay, and so that turns into good retention.
Yeah.
Where the others, they may stay too. Like sometimes there's a shift. I love seeing that, where if it was initially a little more about the money, they might be like, you know what, at this point I just don't want to go get another job. And so those people are going to stick around, and over time, as if the layers kind of start coming in, we foster this culture. And in the culture, it just sort of snowballs almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I look for, is somebody that loves, somebody that is grateful and just very positive, and not a complainer, that's just going to really have a good day and get through the hard times together. And then when you bring those in, they just kind of click with the others. And then one day you're walking past and they're all high-fiving each other and going out afterwards to the movies. That's like a shining moment for me as a boss. Like, man, you guys all got to be best friends. You want to hang out with each other after work. Like extend this. That's just thrilling.
Best case scenario.
So, yeah.
Do you have like team bonding events that you do?
Not as many as you'd think.
To like kind of help be the glue to
I wish we had more, but honestly, it is kind of team bonding, just being there all day. I think getting through the highs and the lows. We have done some. We've done some like Christmas party at Manna.
Yeah.
There have been some times that we go out and go to dinner together. I want to do more as well, but kind of the last half, if you don't mind me sharing a little bit of the last half of my story. I actually am married to my third marriage now, Chad. The first one, obviously, I was sharing the story about. He went to prison, divorced as a single mom.
Yep.
And then I also had another short marriage. It was 4 years, and things with that just didn't work out. Their own reasons, but there's some difficult stuff in there that we probably don't have time for. But that was hard. That was really hard for my heart, and it took some healing, because it was like that was supposed to be the happy ending, the solution. It all looked good. It all looked. I'm a new Christian, and it looked to be a good Christian marriage, but there's some unhealthy stuff. And so with that ending, just the heartbreak and heartache after that one, I guess what I'm getting at is like running a business while going through all these very difficult times and healing and all the conversation. I've got 6 kids, and so, bringing them through all this as well, and they're having a lot of their own faith journeys and paths and things too, because of all the change, so much change for all of us, So for me, kind of meeting them and all that, as well as carrying my own and trying to give things to God and all that, it was difficult. So I've spent much of this time as a boss pouring all my heart into Manna and the employees there, but not much time or you said bandwidth for anything else.
Right.
So any extracurricular things and all, I just kind of head down, show up at work, love the people, go home, love my kids, go to bed, then do it again tomorrow, head down, go to work hard, love my people, go home, love my kids, go to bed. And so there really hasn't been a lot of time for like employee of the month and some things that I would like to do. And then I met Chad, and with him coming alongside, just so naturally joining in with Manna, like my employees, we kind of joke that he's the full-time morale builder at Manna, but you'll see him there in the corner just loving on the customers, loving on my employees. He's retired, retired police officer, and so he's seen a lot of stuff, but he knows how to love real hard too.
Yeah.
So with his support coming along, and I'm able to do more now than I ever was before. And so I have a lot of plans and a lot of things like what you're saying. I would like to bring those in the future.
Right.
And I'm hoping, actually, this podcast is one opportunity that I'm ready to kind of like lift, I guess, pick my head up and have a little bit more time and availability to connect with the customers more, but not just that, but the community more. I'm ready to real soon kind of get out there, and like I see these other business owners joining like Chamber of Commerce and the parades and like really getting into the Tomball culture. And although I've lived here for technically in Tomball just for 2 years, but Wood Forest is nearby, I've lived in the area for a long time, but I really haven't gotten into the community. I've just spent all my time just trying to develop Manna because it was so important.
Yep.
But I see a new chapter coming with Chad alongside us. Together we both reach out into the community and do those extra things for my staff as well. So.
Wow. And so for everyone listening, Christin's, kind of switching gears to get more involved in the community and outreach. She's taking the blinders off. So what's a good place is there an email address that people can reach out to you and say, hey, I want to collaborate with you, or hey, there's this event coming up, I'd love to have you. What's a good email?
You can just email. It's on the website if you don't remember this, but it's support@mannabreadfromheaven.com. So
Perfect.
Just the title of the place, Manna Bread from Heaven. So it's support@mannabreadfromheaven.com.
Yeah, so reach out to Christin if you have ideas or interested in networking or collaborating and you're involved in the community here in Tomball. And so for young women, young entrepreneurs, young business owners that are stepping into that new role as, hey, I have an idea, I'm passionate about this, I want to take it to the next level and potentially be a business owner or an entrepreneur, what's some nuggets and advice that you'd pass down with all this experience now? The scars that you have and the stripes that you've earned, going through the trenches. Take all of that and if you could, package that up into, hey, take this with you.
Yeah.
This is what I would do if I was in your shoes, knowing what I know. What does that sound like?
Yeah. I've had this chance a few times too, when they come, some of my employees like, I want to do this one day, what would you tell me? And I think 3 things. One would be, when you start a business, you need to see it as something that is going to grow. It's going to ultimately grow, and if you're not careful, as it grows, it can crush you if you don't see it as something that needs to grow independent of you eventually. Just like when you have children, owning a business is very much like having a baby and rearing a child. It's going to either grow, or if it stops growing, that means it's going to die.
Right.
And you don't want that. So see it as something that's going to grow so big that you'll never be able to long-term sustain it on your own. So it needs to grow independent of you. So from day one, I don't know if you've heard of something called the E-Myth, but there's a book and a whole thing where that's basically the whole concept is from day one, brand it, label it, systemize it, see it as something that will one day be out on its own, just like you do your kid.
Right.
Even when they're 2 years old, you're like, I need to teach you how the world works out there so that one day when I'm not around, you make those right decisions. All along the way, you're envisioning them as being an adult one day. And so similar to the baby is, I would say, treat your business that way. Something that, okay, I can't always do this. So since I can't always do this, I'm going to find people, put in systems so that I'm going to train it up, like teaching it potty training and how to ride a bike and all these things. Like, I've got to let go at some point so that you can be off and on your way. So seeing your business as that is really important. There have been a lot of, for example, cakes. I know so many women that start their own little cake shop, but then it fails because as it grows, it was all about them, their skills, their talents. They might have gotten some helpers and everything, but as it grew and grew and grew, they took more and more time on it away from the family and things they love, until one day they're just like, I've got to choose between my business that's growing and my family and people that I love. So they have to close the doors. But if you model it so that that day doesn't come from the beginning, then when it's time to step away, it's going to keep, like, you can either sell it, an exit plan or whatever, or plan on doing it the rest of your life, hand it down to your kids, but something that you don't always have to be there. So that would be the first one. Actually, the second one I've already said, but that is see it as a baby almost. or as a bike. When you hop on a bike, you take all your energy and you put it into those pedals in the lowest gear, and you hardly get anywhere. You're pushing so hard just to get yourself moving forward. But then as you put in a little bit of time, apply time to that, and you get rolling, you can shift it up into the next gear with a little less energy, going a little faster. And then as you're gearing up more and more and more, pretty soon you're going 10, 15, 20 miles an hour maybe on very low energy, because of that momentum is moving forward and your wheels are turning and you're in a much higher gear. So you're going a lot faster with almost no energy.
Right.
So initially, similar to a baby, an infant, this is not sustainable. We can't keep doing this forever. So don't get overwhelmed at the beginning when you're running your business. And I was doing 16-hour days, and I just thought, man, I can't do 16-hour days for years on end, but you don't have to. That's just the beginning stages when you're getting systems in place. Once that one's in place, move on to the next one, the next one. Keep it going, keep those plates spinning, but then that momentum's going to carry you forward. And just know that hang in there, just the same amount of energy over time is going to produce much larger results. And pretty soon, they say that millionaires, billionaires, they say that getting to that first million, after that it's easy.
Right.
Your second million comes easy,
Yep.
Third million, fourth. But it's getting up to that point that's the hard work. So.
Yeah, I haven't personally seen that first million, but I've heard that too.
Well, me neither.
I'm still working on it.
But I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I might be on the fourth gear or whatever,
Right.
but I see where the momentum goes, and it's really exciting. So
Yeah.
And that's partly Chad and I right now at a position, we're at a crossroads where we're like, are we going to keep this one business and just love it?
Right.
We're both 51, and we see retirement days coming. We
Sure.
see ministry coming. How much time do we have for both, or is there a way to somehow do both?
Yep.
Are we going to franchise this? How much time is it going to take to franchise this? So we don't know yet what's ahead for Manna, but I do love thinking about the idea that many communities would benefit, and it would be beautiful if God would provide a way for us to be able to franchise it and grow it and develop it. Because I did set it up as a model for franchising, but it would take bringing in people with the right heart to keep the culture,
Exactly.
to keep that. I would not want to lose that,
Right.
And I've seen Chick-fil-A do a decent job with it, and
Yeah.
Hobby Lobby.
Good point.
I'm like, I think it can be done.
Yep.
If we can do it similar, but hopefully better, so that the heart of Manna can continue without me having to be there all the time.
Right.
Other people that would love it and nurture it like I would, that's a question we still have yet to answer.
Yeah.
If we can do that, as well as we have a ministry on the side that potentially they could work together, where I have a public building, maybe at nighttime doing very intentional events and ministry within the building, so
Right.
that it's kind of both. Or does it really need to be separate, because we only have, we're very limited as two people with the maybe 10 years, 15 years that we have before needing to retire. So
Sure.
That's a question. We're sitting in that right now, and we don't know yet.
Well, that's exciting, and I'm hearing follow your heart.
Yeah.
Because you did what you were passionate about, and you were passionate about community and people, loving people through baking, loaves of bread and cinnamon rolls. So follow your heart, put the work in. You can't be afraid of hard work. 16 hours a day. I mean, you're burning midnight oil. At that point, no one else is giving you praise. No one's patting you on the back. You're on your own. You've got 6 kids. You don't know what's around the corner. You're kind of navigating in the dark.
Yeah.
So put the work in. Don't be afraid of hard work, and delayed gratification. So that's kind of what I've written down on my notes. That
Yeah. I did mention there's 3 points. The first would be like, see it as a baby, and then the second was
That's
like,
right.
see it as a bike.
That's right.
But the third one, I hadn't gotten to that one yet. And the third one, I would say, keep it meaningful over time by using your heart. And that's what you actually mentioned that already. And I guess it's been kind of touched on a little bit, but you're not going to love your job if you're not leading out with love. So if it's just about the money, if it's just about, getting that title or getting those things or whatever, you're going to get there, and then you're going to wonder what's next, and it's just going to feel like emptiness. If there's not a connection to people, if you're not feeling like you're making a difference in people's lives, and I tell my kids this too, as they're kind of deciding what they're going to be when they grow up and getting their careers and things, I'm like, make sure that it involves some kind of where you're giving. It's not about you, it's about someone, it's about others. And if it's about others, you're going to find purpose. It's going to wake you up every morning feeling like today's a good day.
Right.
Because you're making a difference. People are going to notice if you're not there. Like, if the world feels a little empty that you didn't show up, that means you're in a good place.
Yeah.
So something with purpose and heart, where you're loving and serving others, that's going to be long-term very rewarding and satisfying.
Love it. Well said. Yeah. Are there any questions I haven't asked you, or is there anything on your heart that you would like to share before we wrap up that we haven't touched on?
I want to share a little bit of love for Tomball, actually. It's been such a good home for us. It's been just I'm quite surprised how a small town can get so big and still keep the small town heart.
Yep.
And I came from a small town myself, just 2,000 people, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And that comes with its goods and bads, its pluses and minuses when you're in a small town, and it can easily be kind of cliquish and negative and all that. But Tomball has not adopted that negative side of what a small town can, that can kind of implode on itself. Instead, it's been something just very positive, and I just have to say kudos to the people here that, man, the way they play so hard. The parade, the 4th of July is not even over yet, and I'm getting a flyer for Tomball days now, like, get ready to party. We're going to do festivals and booths and the fireworks and the parade. I'm like, man,
they're on it.
Get a little rest, and we're going to play again. Yeah,
right.
I love it. They play so hard. And I love that the city wants to clean up as well, rather than just let it go to pot. Sometimes small towns don't want to polish up and grow. Yep. They're scared of change. They're scared of growth. But Tomball has grown beautifully and kept the culture of a small town.
Well, thank you again for providing a warm, welcome place, a platform where people can connect and the community can connect with each other.
Yeah,
super grateful, and I know so many other people are too. For all the listeners, Christin has been nice enough to offer an exclusive 10% discount on your purchase on your next visit up until the end of the year for 2026 with the mention of the Local Roots podcast. So bring your family, friends out, go network, have coffee, read books, spend some time at Manna Bread from Heaven. And Christin, I can't thank you enough again for just sharing your story with us today, being here. I know you're busy running a business, so this is an hour carved out that I appreciate and we all appreciate.
Yep,
and Chad, it's great to meet you, and thank you for joining us as well. Again, all the listeners, thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode.
It's been a privilege.
Take care. Thank you.